After 2 months in the greater Palm Springs area, we're ready to share our thoughts about Palm Springs, Joshua Tree, and more, plus an update on the RV industry and where RV sales are at, and a whole lot more. This is RV Miles.
This winter, LL Bean wants to help you get outfitted for all that's out there with tips and advice for heading outdoors and exploring all the possibilities of the season. Finding time outside can feel tough in winter, but it's just steps away if you turn your backyard into a winter oasis. Add a fire pit to keep you warm, some winter games to keep you active, and some all-weather furniture and outdoor blankets for chilling out comfortably. Just because it's cold out, that doesn't mean you have to be cold. For more fun ideas, easy how-tos, and inspiring stories, visit llbean.com/guide.
Welcome to episode number 266 of RV Miles. I'm Jason.
And I'm Abby. And we are two full-time travelers who, along with our three boys, Jack, Ethan, and Henry, have been crisscrossing North America on one epic road trip since 2016. Here at RV Miles, we talk all things RV and outdoors, from travel destinations to industry news, our national parks, and so much more.
And that North America part really makes a lot more sense now because
sure
we
does.
are in Baja California, down in Mexico, on the shoreline of a wonderful beach with the surf rolling in behind us. Perhaps you can hear it. Perhaps not. I don't know. These headsets, this is why we have them, to block out some noise like that. But the waves are rolling up right behind us, so I'm sure you can get a little bit of it.
But after 24 hours, the wind has finally calmed
The wind has
down.
been insane.
Wow. I'm going to talk a little bit about it in my black tank so we can get into it.
Your black
then.
tank has been the wind like 40 times over the course of this podcast.
I know it is, but this is an interesting. It's not interesting. Whatever. It's just my black tank later. It's not interesting.
We're sitting on our screen tent, literally a stone's throw from the water, and this is just the wonderful thing about Baja is that I guess all the camping we've done so far has been pretty much on the beach.
It's pretty amazing. And we are back in the RV Miles mobile studio. It's been a minute since we've needed to put up a tent and get in here and record because we've been inside the Sabre. If the weather wasn't good to be outside, we would just record inside the Sabre.
Yeah.
Well, that is not a possibility in the Ibex.
I feel like it's going to have to happen at some point. We're going to get stuck doing that, but there's just not very much room in there.
We're going next door to Damien Clay's house. We'll film in the Airstream.
I do feel like we're sitting at the kids' table right now.
Yes.
The table is a little bit high, and the chairs are a little bit low in the sand, and it's coming up to my armpits.
It's a little put together. We're just slowly sinking into this beautiful soft sand. If you're watching by the end of this, it might just be our eyes above the table. Who knows? So stay tuned. But other than that, Baja, this camp spot, every camp spot so far has been amazing, and we've only been here. We haven't even been here a week.
No, just under a week, and we came from the Palm Springs area, which is where we spent sort of the first half of our winter. So that's what we're going to cover on this show today. We're going to share some of the cool things that you can do in Palm Springs and the surrounding area. However, we want to start off by talking about the RV industry and give you a little update on where the RV industry is at with sales. So I just finished writing the news video and podcast episode for this week, and I didn't include this because I just didn't want to, and it was just too much. We talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
But I felt like on the podcast it would be great to have a little bit more of a discussion about this because the RV industry is, I guess they're calling it normalizing.
Of course they are.
And I think that's a fair assessment of this situation. So the sales for last year, these are actual, the numbers the RV industry usually puts out are the number of units that they've built, right? Mm-hmm. And those are down as well. But the actual sales, there's a company called SSI who does a survey to figure out how many RVs were actually sold by counting actual retail registrations with the individual states, right? So they have figured out that RV sales were down in 2022 about 20%. Now, that doesn't seem terrible. That seems about right after the biggest year ever in 2021.
Right.
And the second half of 2020 being a very big year. But it doesn't really tell the whole story, because down 20% for 2022, that beginning and the end of the year are sort of arbitrary lines, right? The early half of 2022 was great. Mm-hmm. The second half of 2022 was not. So there was a big drop off in the second half of the year. And we saw that with lots of RV manufacturers doing a longer than expected shutdown in July after the July 4th break. Many of them doing sort of longer shutdowns in January here to sort of get back to what they were doing pre-pandemic. The RV industry saw this big boom, and they built as much as they could, and they sold as much as they could. But in the end, we're returning back to pre-pandemic levels. So the sales for last year are about the same as they were in 2017. So 2018 and 2019 were actually better than last year. So it is on a little bit of a downturn. And what that means for you, if you're a consumer, potentially, hopefully soon, means better pricing. There's already been, over the course of the last 6 months or so, a little bit better pricing, more deals to be had out there. However, here's the weird thing, is that over the course of the last month, prices have gone up again. And that's according to a company called Black Book that does auction lane watching. So they go to the auction lanes where the RVs that you trade in, if that dealer doesn't want them, doesn't want to put it on their lot and sell it, they then take them to the auctions. And it's kind of the best way we can really gauge an overall number of how used RVs are selling. And the auction prices have gone up again after several steady declines, another increase. And I think that just goes along with inflation and all that sort of stuff. And the availability of certain RVs has continued to be a problem. Motorhomes in particular, because chassis availability with that whole chip shortage thing that began back in 2020 has continued to be a problem. Meanwhile, more people have been interested in smaller motorhomes. So even though all the sales have been dropping dramatically, sales for Class C motorhomes, particularly the smaller end of Class C motorhomes, and Class B motorhomes, which are camper vans, have bucked the trend, and they are all up about 10% or so.
Well, we are certainly enjoying living in something a bit smaller right now.
We are. It's wild. It's something else.
I don't know.
But it's fun.
It's interesting to see where we are going to land in 2023 when it comes to not only consumers buying, but then will we continue to see what we've seen throughout the years of availability of campgrounds and the popularity in RVing, or are we going to start to plateau a little bit? And I still think even if we do plateau, we're going to be at numbers of people enjoying this lifestyle who have discovered how amazing it is. I think those numbers are still going to be higher than what we saw before the beginning of 2020. So I think this year is going to be the year where we really see what RVing looks like, I guess, at a normal level.
At least RV sales, because campground reservations are still up.
Well, that could be normal, though, Jay. That could be.
Because people bought these RVs.
Yes.
They're not getting rid of them.
And they're enjoying them. Yeah. They want to go out and use them. And how they're using them depends on whether or not they're just enjoying the campground down the road from their house. They're going out on these big, epic trips. But we certainly know that it's still popular and it's still there. We're still seeing campgrounds. New campgrounds are being built all the time, which is great. We've had a few press releases come in lately announcing new campgrounds. We know that KOA is still going really strong. In fact, we're about to talk about a KOA here in the next segment when we get to Palm Springs. So there's definitely, from the RVer perspective, this is still a really, really active way to get out and travel.
Whether that's good or bad for you, you can decide on your own. But I think I love it. I love that there are so many people out doing this. I love talking to and meeting everybody. I know that it can be harder to get campsites that you want now. That's going to be the reality going forward. It just is. There's the era of pulling up into a campground whenever you want to is over. Although if you come down to Baja,
I was about to say you're saying this as we have made
it's the first
zero
time
reservations.
we've done that. It's the exception that proves the rule because we haven't been able to do this in a long time. For when we started out, we did lots of we would reserve a day to 3 days out. Yeah. And even that has really we've been reserving much further out than we used to.
Much further out. And this is actually a discussion that's also my fresh tank when we got to it. So just slow your roll. Okay. We're going to get to talk a little bit about this as well, because there's just been some really amazing things that I have come to realize about myself as an RVer just in the last week since we left for Baja.
We're going to take a quick break, but before we do, a quick reminder that if you want to become a Mile Marker member, we do have the Mile Marker Facebook group and the monthly live that you can participate in. The last one was a whole lot of fun.
It was right here on the beach in Baja. So that is, if Mile Marker is something you're interested in, or you're wondering what the heck is a Mile Marker, those are the individuals who just want to offer a little extra support to RV Miles every month. It's $4.99 a month. And really, we do, even though we offer this live stream and this Facebook group, at the heart of all of it, your support is going towards increasing the content that RV Miles is making. It's helping us hire staff. It's also allowing us to really curate and give that professional layer to everything we do, because we really do pride ourselves on putting out content that not only informs and entertains, but looks really good and sounds really good and has something that you want to come back to time and time again. So if you are interested in being a part of that, we will link to it in the show notes as well as the description for YouTube. And you can join and become a Mile Marker on either YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. Benefits are the same all across those three platforms. And as a way to say thank you, we go live every month and we just have a little hour-long chat, and it is a delight.
All right, let's take a break. And when we come back, the greater Palm Springs area.
Be right back.
Chances are you've seen them on the road. That's because Blue Ox designs and manufactures the best towing products in the industry. Just look around, you'll find them on highways and campgrounds and anywhere you find people traveling in the great outdoors. Award-winning tow bars, base plates, and brakes, a full line of weight distributing hitches, adjustable ball mounts, and a new line of fifth wheel hitches. With Blue Ox, towing doesn't have to be a drag. To learn more about how Blue Ox can make your travel adventures even more stress-free, visit blueox.com.
This episode is supported by ParkWolf, the ultimate app for visiting U.S. national parks. With ParkWolf, you can view upcoming places and amenities as you drive through the park, locate the nearest gas, food, bathrooms, and pullover points. ParkWolf's wildlife maps show you the best times and places to see or avoid wildlife, along with a feed of the latest wildlife sighting photos from the parks. ParkWolf even makes it possible for you to view your live location and direction on official park maps while staying up to date on current NPS alerts and advisories. ParkWolf keeps working even if you lose service. To learn more, download the ParkWolf app for iPhone free from the Apple App Store today.
We are back, and it is time to talk Palm Springs. Palm Springs, how do I describe it? It's a mid-century modern utopia of all kinds of really cool architecture.
It was the playground for many a Hollywood star.
Yeah, there you can still see the homes of Frank Sinatra and Marilyn Monroe,
Elvis Presley.
Yeah, it's really still sort of, a lot of it is intact.
And the city reflects that vibe too. It's really got this super cool, as you mentioned, mid-mod century sort of just elegance to it. And you do feel like some of these restaurants are places you go into, you feel like you have stepped back into the 1950s and 1960s. It's just like a very cool vibe and something we haven't really experienced a lot or seen a lot on the road. This kind of like really just like doubling down on these two particular decades.
Well, and also there is a little bit of modern to it in terms of a lot of modern street art.
Yes.
There's all sorts of big sculptures and stuff, and there's always something going on.
But I would argue that art still has
has a flair.
It still has a flair, and it still really fits in with the vibe of the city. But before we get into talking about all the things you can do in the Greater Palm Springs area, let's talk about where we stayed. And actually, it was your fresh tank last week because the amazing people at the Palm Springs Joshua Tree KOA are certainly worth going to that campground just for the people that work there. We spent 2 months and we had a fantastic time at this campground, making it our home base over the winter.
Yeah, this is not a place that's going to blow you away by the nature, the beauty, the design. This is an RV park,
but it will warm your soul in the hot springs.
But it does have 3 hot spring hot tubs and a very large pool that is hot spring fed. So it's the pool itself it's not hot, but it's like warm enough to swim in at when it's 60 degrees outside.
But the hot tubs are definitely a draw, and they do have activities there. There was bingo, and there was wine painting, and they have the train for the kids, and there is a basketball court and pickleball, and they do even have some cabins on site and some of those yurts, those glamping tents that are really popular right now. They have a lot of different features on there to accommodate all different kinds of travelers because, again, this KOA is a really good jumping off point for a lot of people to go and visit Joshua Tree.
Now, I got to say, I hope they're not listening because their rates are too good. I mean, they just are. They're monthly rates, at least.
If they can get their monthly rates on the same page.
Yeah, there's some discrepancies.
There was a little discrepancy.
However,
several
but
times.
Still, like a monthly rate for full hookups in Southern California. I mean, you're not too far of a drive from Disneyland, from Los Angeles, from even we drove down to San Diego, and of course, like you said, Joshua Tree. There's a lot of beauty, a lot of nature in the area, and it's a place to be warm in the winter. And you're paying a decent bit under $1,000 a month.
As of right now, let's just say this is February 2023. Yeah, let's not give an exact amount
with electricity included. Now, if you've never done a monthly in California before, usually the electricity is not included, and electricity in California can be very expensive. We've seen people have bills upwards of $300.
It's very unusual in general for a campground that's doing a monthly like this to fold in the electric rate into its monthly cost. Even when we were staying in the Quad Cities over winter, the electric was not included in that monthly cost that we were paying there. So
and they do that for a reason, because they don't want people to be heating their RVs with 4 space heaters,
running all the space heaters,
and they want you to be conscious about the electricity you use. But it's really hard to beat that sort of price in a popular. I mean, Palm Springs is a expensive real estate town.
It's very expensive. I mean, we were driving by signs that were like, "Oh, great deal! Home starting at the low 4 millions." It was like, now, Jason, it's a great deal. We need to jump on this.
Now, the Palm Springs Joshua Tree KOA is neither actually in Palm Springs, nor is it really super close to Joshua Tree. No. So I want to be clear on that. It's about a 20-minute drive into the city of Palm Springs itself. And then it's about an hour drive to Joshua Tree National Park.
Yeah, it's located in Desert Hot Springs, California, but it is absolutely worth a stop if you're going to that area. I feel really confident in saying that we will be returning.
Now, let's talk about some of the things we did in the Greater Palm Springs area.
Yeah, where to start? So obviously, well, you know what? Let's start with Joshua Tree because
Okay.
we've already brought that up. Now, we were really, really busy while we were here. So we were here over December and January in the Palm Springs area, and that was the holidays. As many of you know, we spent some time at Disneyland. We went on a Disney cruise. We were prepping to move out of the Sabre and into the Ibex the whole time we were there.
Christmas, we had New Year's Eve,
Yes.
and Jack and I flew to Chicago to drive over to Indiana to bring the Ibex all the way back along Route 66. So that was a whole week.
And we all got really sick too. So
That
we
too.
all had winter colds. So we didn't get to do nearly as much exploring as we wanted to do, especially in Joshua Tree. And I feel like that is my one big regret. It just because, again, the proximity is an hour. So it's not that easy to just pop over at the end of a work day like we like to do and grab a couple of hikes before sunset. And of course, obviously, sunset was like 4:30 for most of the time while we were there. So,
but we can give you a few tips about Joshua Tree.
Yeah.
The Joshua Tree is at a decent elevation. So the middle of winter it's a little bit off season actually. So the main season for them is fall and spring. And even though it was a little bit off street season, it was still fairly busy in the park on the day that we did the big drive through it. So we drove through most of the park on the main loop road. You want to, if you can, go to the furthest entrance east because the western entrance can get really backed up with people trying to get into the park. You can also come in from the south, from the entire different side of the park as well. We made that drive several years ago in the bus down there, and it's gorgeous as well.
Gorgeous.
That's sort of a lesser visited part of the park.
but we did spend New Year's Day in Joshua Tree. We started off the year in a national park. And to talk about what you said about weather, when we left our campground, we were in the upper 50s. And by the time we got into Joshua Tree, it was in the 30s.
Yeah. So it's a big temperature difference going up there. So that's why that's the reason for the off season. But also, you want to go with some extra clothing and be prepared to be warm. You also want to be prepared to find parking because it's not easy. This is a park with lots of small parking areas that fill up fast at the most popular spots, and there's not a lot of road access to tons of stuff. So you really want to be able to get in early and get your parking spot in, or go late in the afternoon as people are leaving.
But we talked to a lot of people in our campground, and there's a lot of monthlies in this campground, especially this time of year. There's a lot of people wintering in this campground. And I have to say that a lot of people we talked to, and this is why I feel like a lot of regret about this, is that they said that some of the best hiking they have ever been on, they have done in Joshua Tree. And so this is clearly one of those parks that we need to get back to and we need to give a little bit more time to.
Yeah.
So if you go this way, do carve out some time for Joshua Tree National Park. Another thing you want to carve out some time for, and this is going to get you into downtown Palm Springs, where all the action is, where all the restaurants are. It is the Thursday night Palm Springs Village Fest. This is a blast. We were able to do this twice. And what it is on Thursday nights. Now you want to try to get there a little bit earlier before it even begins if you can, because parking is an issue. But what they do is they shut down this whole section, the main section of downtown Palm Springs, and then it is just lined with local vendors. And it is a ton of fun. Some of the shops stay open late as well, so you can pop into those, do a little bit of shopping, but you can walk down the center. They have performances, and they've got just amazing foods. All the restaurants are hopping. And then you can just kind of check out all of the local wares and support all of the small businesses in and around Joshua Tree. We loved this.
We did.
This was a lot of fun. We did, however, get into a bit of a jam with the truck in a parking garage where we weren't quite sure if Pueblo was going to get in or out.
Our truck is 7 foot, and the height limit was 7'1".
But it said 8'2" when you first went into it. So here's a tip.
We got in a situation where we couldn't turn around, and we just had to pray that we were going to be fine.
Yeah, that was, and you know what? We were, and we made it up there.
The antenna might not have fared so well.
Antenna wasn't too happy with us, but that's something to bear in mind too, because it did say when you came into the garage, it said 8'2". We thought we were totally fine. Yeah. And then we come in, we turn the corner, and then all of a sudden it says 7'1", and they are giving you nowhere to turn around. So if you are driving a big truck into Palm Springs, just take it from us. Stay away from the garages. Just find some street parking. While you're doing that on Thursday nights, there are also, if you want to couple it with a trip to the art museum, you can hit that up in the afternoon, get that parking in already, go to the art museum, and then you're right there for Village Fest on Thursday night. Grab a reservation because you probably will need, if you want to eat at one of the restaurants down there, you are going to need a reservation on that Thursday night because it's so busy. But absolutely, Thursday night, Palm Springs Village Fest. We love it. Another thing we really enjoyed, we'll touch on quickly, is the kids and I went to the Living Desert Zoo and Gardens. This was a really enjoyable afternoon, and they have some really gorgeous displays, and you can go through so much more than I thought it was going to be. Like, don't let the name fool you. Like, this is really a legit, like, full-on zoo, and you can go in, and we saw, I mean, they have, I think, like 8, 9, 10 giraffe.
Wow.
Like, out on the savannah. They have this huge
I wish I had been able to go.
It's stunning. We were there in the late afternoon, so the animals were incredibly active, but it was a lot of fun. It's absolutely worth going. Another thing we want to recommend is the Palm Springs Air Museum as well. And then, of course, I feel like no trip to Palm Springs is complete without hitting the Palm Springs Aerial Tramway. And I think that this is a big draw for everyone when they come to Palm Springs. This is the world's largest rotating tram car. I mean, now, the bulk of our family was very interested in this. There were definitely a few people who were like, hard pass, because what this tram does is it travels over 2.5 miles, and it takes you up the canyon. You get to the top of the mountain. It's about 10 minutes total that it takes you to do this, but you get up there, and then once you're at the mountain station, your elevation is like somewhere around 8,500 feet. So what's really cool about that too is you can be down like we were, where there is no snow, but you can take this tram and you can spend the whole afternoon playing in the snow. I think that's a
really important point, because a lot of people don't realize that Palm Springs is sort of surrounded by mountains, and we have mountain views the entire time we were there, with snowy peaks up in the mountains. It's so weird because it's like you're looking through the palm trees in the campground at the mountains with snow on them.
It is wild.
And you're warm and cozy while it's nice and icy cold up there.
Yeah, you can. And what's cool is you get to go up there. You get to have a little bit of winter, play in the snow. They've got restaurants and observation decks. But what I think is the coolest thing about this is they have 50 miles of hiking trails.
Yeah.
You go up there.
Because it's a state park up there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's just, that is to me like a big must do if you go to the area. It can be a little pricey, but I think if you can stretch that out into an all-day event and really take advantage of everything that's, once you're up at the top of the mountain, everything that's up there in that state park, it's absolutely worth it. So that's the Palm Springs Aerial Tramway. One
final thing we want to recommend that's closer to the campground, before we talk about the food we ate, is called Cabot's Pueblo Museum. And we had no idea what we were getting into here, but this is...
How do you describe this?
It's a residence that was hand-built over the course of many, many years. Mm-hmm. When Palm Springs wasn't a city, though it still existed when Palm Springs was a city, but it was sort of it's sort of like a rustic old West hand-built home that then became a tourist attraction. And I don't know how to describe it other than that. It is just all sorts of weird and unique and interesting handmade architecture by this guy who built it. And it's got all these like sort of windows with angled mullions in them and just dirt floors on purpose to connect your feet with the earth and stuff like that. And it's really interesting walkthrough. It takes maybe an hour and a half overall.
It's a self-guide. You can do a self-guided, which we absolutely recommend. Get the audio tour so that you can kind of get a lot more like context to the place. But it is fascinating, and it's a nice break from a lot of the glitz and the glamour of Palm Springs. This is a really nice break from that. So there are so many other things you could go and do as well. Shields Date Garden, there's the Coachella Valley History Museum. I mean, you could go to the Greater Palm Springs area and you could fill your entire, if you were there, we were there for 2 months, and I feel like we barely cracked the surface of this area. So this is one of those where if you're looking for somewhere to winter and to never be bored, we cannot recommend the Greater Palm Springs area enough. Now let's get to the most important part of it all, and that is
we always love the food part.
The food. We did a lot of eating. There are Saturday morning farmers markets. You can go and definitely go see the biscotti lady. She is phenomenal and so kind at the farmers market. But if you want to go out to dinner, we want to recommend these 5 places to you. They are all so wildly different. So just go for what you're feeling. Look at them and see if they fit your needs. The first one is Jay's Deli, but don't be fooled by the name.
It's a high-end sort of traditional New York deli.
Oh man, and they are doing it all right there on site.
Like you will eat to the sound of the meat slicer.
Yes,
right.
I had a club sandwich on gluten-free bread, which was super rad. It was so big, so tall. I had to deconstruct it. I couldn't eat it all. I attempted, and it was not humanly possible. You had pastrami on rye, right?
I had yes, I did, and it was amazing.
Oh, it looked so good.
And they had some of the best pickles that I have had in a very, very long time.
Jason is the only one in this family who likes pickles.
And I had everyone's.
And he ate everyone's. Another place that we actually had Christmas Eve dinner at was Lulu's California Bistro. That is, again, going to be there on the main strip in downtown Palm Springs. We also really enjoyed La Cazuela Terrazza. I said it right. I feel very proud.
So.
I think so, hopefully. And if you go there, the only thing I'm going to recommend is you need to get the top shelf margarita. I think the El Presidente. Get the El Presidente. But just get one and take it slow. Okay? That's my recommendation to you. Take it from someone who's been there. Mm-hmm. Just start with one and eat some food before you go after that second one. We also really enjoyed Bongo Johnny's Patio Bar and Grill. They were playing some of the best 80s music while we were in there, like 8-year-old Abby, like Debbie Gibson, Tiffany, New Kids on the Block. Like it was so good.
This is a Gen Xer's place for sure.
Oh man,
and
all the way.
Just be warned, if you have children who are old enough and smart enough to know
double entendres,
the names of the menu items are a little racy.
Some of them are, yes. And Ethan thought that was just hilarious. And finally, Fresh Agave Mexican Bar and Grill. So, but again, often when you come out on Dillon Road, which is that's the road in front of the KOA, you can go down a couple stop signs and there are going to be vendors on like a Friday night. They've set up like their version of a food truck and they are cooking. Yeah. That's where you want to go. That's what you want to stop, and there's where you want to get the tacos.
We also had these absurd Instagram shakes at a place called Monster Shakes.
I forgot about that.
And we can highly recommend the Desert Regional Medical Center for your ER needs. Don't recommend the lobby of the Desert Regional Medical Center.
pass.
So
sit outside and wait for them to come and get you. Bring a book.
But once you're, a lot of ERs are this way because, I'm experienced. Once you're past the doors, it's a lot better.
It's a whole new world. So that is our time in the Greater Palm Springs area. And we would like to actually thank the Greater Palm Springs Tourism Bureau for helping us put together this itinerary. They are some really super kind people over there. And I know that they would love to answer your questions as well. So let's take a break. And then when we come back,
what do we do then?
Let's empty some tanks.
Okay.
Let's empty some tanks. We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by the folks at RV Mattress by Brooklyn Bedding. Abby and I have been using the Dream Foam Series mattress about 9 months now, and we couldn't be happier. We're sleeping better, and we were able to customize it to fit the exact needs of our fifth wheel. RVMattress.com offers a 120-night sleep trial, the ability to pick different sizes and thicknesses depending on your personalized sleep needs. Plus, their products are toxin-free, made in the USA, and incredibly simple to set up. We were able to have ours delivered to the campground, and within hours of unboxing the mattress, it was fully expanded and ready for us to sleep on. RVMattress.com offers free shipping and is currently extending 20% off to the RV Miles community when you visit RVMattress.com/RVMiles and use the promo code RVMiles. That's RVMattress.com/RVMiles with promo code RVMiles for 20% off. Our thanks to RVMattress.com for supporting this channel and to you for supporting our sponsors.
On every road trip, there are moments you wish could last forever. Your kids running into the ocean for the first time, that perfect campsite with views that amaze and surprise, a hike through Sarah's Crack, moments you spend time planning and you wish would never end. But like all good adventures, they do. But you know what doesn't have to end? Your Road Pass Pro membership you used to plan that memory-making vacation. Grab your Road Pass Pro membership today and lock in the $49.99 price for life. Featuring some of our favorite trip planning sites like Campendium and Road Trippers and the Togo app for checklists, Road Pass Pro will help you create an amazing RV adventure. Save $10 off your first year with code RVMiles10X and lock in the renewal rate of $49.99 for life. Road Pass Pro is going up in the new year, so if you've been on the fence, now is the time to join and save. Just click the link in the description and use code RVMiles10X to save $10 off your first year of Road Pass Pro. We are back, and it is time to check the level of our tanks. Jay, what is in your black tank this week?
Okay, so y'all are going to get a little sneak peek at some of the stuff that happened to us that will be in sort of some of our travel videos.
Baja to Alaska kicked off with a rip-roaring start.
Our second day in Mexico came to us with a flat tire. And the flat tire is not my black tank. The Ibex came with a full size spare, and it was easy to change out, and we did that. It was mostly easy. The reason it wasn't entirely easy is what is actually my black tank. It's the fact that somehow I left the jack from our Ford in the Sabre. Unbelievable to me, but it has been there, and I knew we both figured out exactly where it was. We know where it is.
Unbelievable.
I put it there way back when
you put it there when we
had the flat tire on the Sabre,
yes.
because it was too much work to get it back into the position that it goes in the truck.
Yes.
So I put it in the front storage of the Sabre, and there it sits.
And there it sits in Palm Springs.
Luckily, we're traveling with another family, but and that's how it goes. So my black tank is me.
Oh,
and the jack.
I mean, things
my mistake
happen.
that I made with the jack.
Things happen,
Yes.
and one of the things we are learning about this trip, and one of the things that we hope to be able to share with you as we learn from our mistakes, is putting together a list of checks.
Yeah.
Little tiny things that we didn't think of in the big picture, right? Again, checking just to make sure that your jack is where it's supposed to be.
I did, however, buy a new jack.
Yes.
At an AutoZone. What was the town that
San Felipe.
In San Felipe. this should be this here. I'll just make this one of my 2 fresh tanks then, because this was the best AutoZone I've ever been to.
We've been to a lot of AutoZones too.
This AutoZone was 3 times the size of any American AutoZone. Like, they had car top carriers.
Dang.
They had, all the supplies that you need to do body work and stuff. It was wild. They had like barrels of oil. I feel like they supplied like all the automotive shops in the area.
I was about to say, we now know where AutoZone is really putting a lot of its of its time and effort.
Yeah. So the AutoZone is great, but my real fresh tank, however, is the Jackery Solar Generator 1500 Pro kit, which we have been trying out here on the beaches of Baja. And I did a video review of this, and you can go check that out over on the main RV Miles YouTube channel. But essentially, it's a portable power station. It's got a 1500 watt hour battery in it, and it came with 400 watt solar panels. The headline is, I have always been resistant of these things because I thought they were lame, and I was wrong. And the thing is, the ground deploy solar panels, the ability to like put your solar panels out on the ground and angle them at the sun and move them throughout the day, is wildly better than the solar panels on the roof.
Now, if we could angle our solar panels on the roof, that would make a huge difference.
But even if we could, we would only be able to angle them if we were parked the right direction and only up and down, right? We wouldn't be able to turn them. And there's only so much room on the roof of the Ibex for solar panels, right? So on the roof of the Ibex, we have 760 watts of solar. We moved some of the solar from the Sabre over. And the Jackery came with 400 watts of solar. We regularly get way more wattage from the ground deployed panels than we do from the flat panels on our roof.
Yeah, so if you want to check out Jason's review of that, we will link to it in the show notes, in the description for the podcast, as well as the description for the YouTube video.
All right. What is in your black tank this week, Abigail?
It's so interesting that your black tank was kind of you, because my black tank is kind of me. I know you thought I was going to be talking about the wind, but I am talking about the wind. But it's me that so it's windy in Palm Springs. Just know that now. Like, it's windy. It's going to be windy. And it was windy the whole time we were there, it felt like. And we're talking strong wind gusts. Yeah. Okay, I'm not talking like just a light breeze. We're talking like wind gusts sometimes of up to 50 miles, 60 miles an hour.
They actually have a little sign on the desk at the check-in that's like, yes, it's always this windy.
You would think that after 2 months of that, and then we get here, that by now I would be accustomed to trying to sleep at night when it's really windy. I slept like garbage last night because starting at 1 a.m., the wind really kicked up. And I wish I knew how strong it was, but I wouldn't doubt it was at some point around 50 miles an hour.
The big thing keeping you awake, though, was the little flap in the vent over the stove.
Yes.
So this morning I went out and shut that.
He shuts it at 6:30. And after I'd literally only slept like 2 hours, and I look at him and I was like, we could have done that the whole time. And I was just like, I quit. Because I didn't think that's what it was. I couldn't tell. You know, when you're tired and you wake up in the middle of the night, like sound is always just like magnified like 100 times. And I think that too, just the way the waves were enormous last night. Even though the tide was out, they were huge. The wind was just rip roaring, and it was coming over us. Thank goodness we were not getting broadsided by it. It was coming right over us. But I just kept thinking to myself, why are everyone else in this house is just sleeping like a baby right now? And I cannot, after all this time, I am still unable to sleep through really, really heavy wind. And I've basically spent the last 2 months, plus on a cruise where we had one night where it was just like, hope you don't want to stand up because that's not an option tonight. So my black tank is me for just like, whatever my deal is with the wind, I cannot seem to just like be at peace with it.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
It's all right. Whatever.
What's in your fresh tank?
So my fresh tank this week is like, the kind of flip side of all of that. And that is that over this last week, as we have entered into Baja, really the day we left Palm Springs and headed for that Walmart and then crossed the border and had to kind of switch up some plans because of the tire and all of this, we have just been traveling. We haven't been making reservations. We have had to shift a few things because, we couldn't get as far as we wanted to be by now and this and that. And I just felt like we have hearkened back, or we have returned to what this was for us when we first started traveling, like the days of Bussy. This feels like a return to Wonder Bus days. And I really love that. And I just realized that about myself, that I really love, the thing I love about this is the freedom of all of it. And I know that that's not always possible everywhere we go. And a lot of places do need you to make reservations, but the freedom of this and the ability to roll up into somewhere and just be like, this is where we're going to stop for the night. This feels like the place we want to go to, is delightful. Yeah. And I hope that every RVer at some point in their journey gets to kind of experience that, because I think that this is a little bit of what RVing should be like. It should be that ability to kind of have more of a say over how far you go, when you go, and where you want to stop. And I think this week has been really, really nice. It has not been without its headaches, of course, but in regards to how we've been traveling and how we have slowed way down.
Yeah.
I really like it.
What a great note to end the episode on. That's it for this week's episode of the RV Miles podcast.
Yes, it is. As always, if you are enjoying the show, please head over to wherever you're listening. Maybe that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever, and just leave a little review there for us, a little 5 stars or whatever their equivalent is, because that really does help put RV Miles in front of a whole new generation of listeners, and we really value you doing that for us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. If you are shopping over on Amazon, please take us with you. Just go over to amazon.com/shop/RVMiles. And until next week, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep logging those RV kilometers.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.